So some people have already started introducing themselves in chat. What I'm asking for community members to do is put your name, your location, whether it's local or not local. That's up to you, however much information you want to do. And then include community group affiliation, the years you've been active with us or in and around us, pronoun choices, and then access needs. It's important to note that we all have access needs. They can be as simple as needing to drink water or to be off the camera, or it can be a whole lot more complex, like the captions that we currently do have it enabled. If people want to see the captions, you can go to the caption setting and do show subtitle, or you can do view full transcript. So you have those two options to us. So I also want to take time to acknowledge that we are on Ohlone land and that it's important to acknowledge and honor the people that have come before us and that still reside in these lands. So I use the term agreements here more so because it sets a tone and an understanding. But yet I know I have not solicited everybody's input to get agreement to these agreements. So I'll also ask people if there are any other items that you want to add to this. The agreements, this slide is a blue highlight line. It says agreements and it has words on it. So it's a fairly boring slide, but it says together we know a lot, alone we do not know it all. So that's about interconnectivity, interdependence, and it's important. Assume positive intent. So by assuming positive intent, that doesn't necessarily mean that the impact will always be positive. So we assume positive intent, we have positive intent, so we act with positive intent, but then we're also accountable to the impact of our words and actions. So whenever we're in social justice spaces, it can be tense and sometimes uncomfortable. And rather than saying that's not welcome here, what I want to say is, let's be accountable to those missteps and misdeeds that we might do unintentionally so that we can collectively grow together. Use I statements, which means speak from your own experience rather than generalizing. You can quote studies, things like that, but I really want to hear the personal experience or the personal understanding that's behind those things within whatever somebody's comfort level might be. Another important piece is to expect non-closure. We're not going to reach answers tonight. We probably won't even reach beginning decisions. It'll just be an introductory glimpse into what some of the community members are thinking regarding what we do and where we go from here. The other thing is I'll try to be respectful of everybody's time. We also want to make sure that if you step up, step back. So if you're talking all the time, you might want to try to encourage somebody else to talk or step back to give somebody else the room to talk. In the event that you feel uncomfortable, disrespected, or overlooked at any time, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you don't feel safe enough to reach out to me, please feel free to reach out to somebody who you do feel safe to reach out to so that we can hopefully collectively work on a solution. So part of respecting your time is to outline kind of what we're going to go through here tonight. We kind of did the grounding and the agreements. There's a couple of other things that I'll be doing in the next couple of slides. We're going to hear introductions from the Collins Foundation board members as well as the San Jose Peace and Justice Center Coordinating Council. Charlotte Casey, who's been the treasurer and ongoing volunteer here at the center, and is a peace activist. She will be giving a history of the Collins House and the Collins Foundation. I'll be going over a brief overview of what the, I'll be giving a kind of costs and updates on the Collins Foundation, the Collins House, and San Jose Peace and Justice Center. And thank you, Walter, for letting me know that. Additionally, just for people to know, Molly McLeod is covering accessibility or access needs in this meeting. You can direct message her with any concerns. You're also welcome to direct message me, but I may or may not see it, even though I try to do fairly good with that. So anyways, after we go over the boring number stuff, but the important number stuff, Liz Gonzalez from the South Bay Community Land Trust is going to be doing a brief presentation on what they're doing and some of the successes that they've had more recently. Next slide. Then we'll go into questions. We're going to have breakout sessions to kind of try to allow to give everybody the space to talk and answer some basic questions that I'll be detailing before we head into the breakout rooms. We'll return to the main room for the report back, and then we'll discuss next steps and how to connect. So for those that are able and wanting to, I have a brief Zoom poll that if there are 2 questions. The first one is just kind of before you hear anything, what do you think we should do with Collins House? And the multiple choices are various conversations that we've had internally as to where we go from here. The second question is mostly about the pandemic and what are your thoughts for opening the house in this pandemic? So I'm going to launch those poll questions and see. I'll read out the responses once we get more replies. Yeah, Donna put that for question 1, none of the choices are my answer. I thought I put a do not know in there. I guess I didn't. Well, something else is what I said, but
yeah, something else.
Yeah, it's not really an in-depth look at things. It's just kind of let's just see where people are at and go from there. Is anybody else still working on the survey that needs more time?
Yeah, I wouldn't give up on the house, but you know me, I'm really sentimental on the house.
Yeah.
Because I was there at the beginning. But something needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay, I'm at 75%. Anybody else? And then I'll end the poll and show the results. Yeah, it's like 8-ish people, which may all be internal. So I think that should share the results with you. 2 out of 22 said to sell the house. 5 out of 22 said give the house to another group who can do more with it. 3 said start a building campaign to rebuild at this location. 10 said renovate and modernize. 6 said something else. And then nobody did the last option of it's time to dissolve. Then regarding opening the house, this is actually quite helpful too. 4 said pandemic, schmandemic, which was my choice of term. Open the doors, let us meet. We had 11 that was keep the groups limited to 10 or fewer attendees in a hybrid meeting space. 2 said I don't plan on meeting in person for a while still. 8 said an outdoor meeting space would be great. 3 said they don't know. And 1 person did say they would stick with Zoom. There'll be another question that follows similar to the first one at the end of the presentation and stuff, just to see where people are as well. Did that shut off? I don't know if that shut off. I think it did. Next slide, Carla. So many of you guys may or may not know Collins Foundation, but in January of 2021, Collins Foundation updated their mission statement, and this is the new mission statement, and it's Collins Foundation provides a movement home for diverse progressive groups and community members, striving to build solidarity and create a more equitable, sustainable, and just society. We are a grassroots organization committed to providing infrastructure and support for social movements for peace, human rights, an equitable economy, and racial and gender justice. So next slide. Collins Foundation Board of Directors is made up of Dan Mayfield, who's currently the board chair. Charlotte Casey is currently the treasurer. James Murray, Jeff Lake, Louise, Nick, Serena, and Sharat. What I want each one of those that are here to do is to introduce yourselves with like your name, the length of time you've been with either SJPJC and or Collins Foundation, what issues, causes are important to you in like a brief kind of overview, your pronouns, and then if you have anything else that you wanted to share into this meeting at the very beginning of it. So Dan, do you want to go?
Sorry, I had a hard time unmuting there. I'm the board chair and I have been for several years now. I don't know how long actually. I've been involved with the Peace Center at least, as a participant for more than 30 years, maybe more than that. My interests would go mostly towards creating a space at the Collins Foundation for people who are interested in accelerated social change. He, him work just fine for me. And I don't know, I guess that's about it. So.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm Charlotte Casey. I've been around, was first introduced to the Peace Center in the year 2000. And I've been on the board of the Collins Foundation since about 2012, let's say, or longer. Issues, causes important to you. I think we're at a turning point. We're facing some serious dark times in our country, and that concerns me greatly. The threat of fascism, global warming, issues that mean that we have to really come together and support each other and come up with some brilliant creative solutions. That's it. My pronouns are she, her.
Thank you. I thought I saw Serena. We're just having you guys introduce yourself. I kind of skipped around because I wasn't sure if James was with you or not, but do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I can't, okay. I thought it started at 6:30. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We thought we were checking in early. Oh dear. Okay. And I can't see everybody. I can only see you.
No, we're sharing a slide to help guide the
Okay.
process.
Okay.
So if you can share names, the length of time with the Collins Foundation or Peace and Justice Center,
Okay.
important issues and causes and pronouns.
Okay. My name is Serena Murray, and I've been a member of the Collins Foundation board for, I don't know exactly, I would say probably 7 or 8 years. So, but I'm not sure. What issues and causes are important to me? Well, I agree with Charlotte. We are definitely at a turning point. There seems the right wing is gaining power and strength, and gun control issues are really important to me. Stopping all wars and invasions, that's always important to me. And my pronouns are she, her, she, her, yeah.
James, do you feel up to going or?
Well, I can talk.
He knows.
I've been in the Peace Center as long as Serena. I can't remember how long it is.
It's the Collins board.
The Collins Foundation. It seems like a long time. I agree with Charlotte and Serena. All those issues are extremely important. The global warming, fascism is already here. The Democratic Party is no improvement. Biden is allied with Saudi Arabia and Guaido in Venezuela, all these insane things, and giving oil leases while the planet is burning up. These are my concerns.
Yeah.
I'm a he and a him, I guess.
Thank you. Jeff, can you go?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jeff Lake. I was with the Peace Center as a young person in the early 80s. I came back to the center prior to the Iraq War, as that was heading towards all out war. So I've been with the center in some capacity since then. My causes have always been anti-war, anti-militarism, and that, of course, is linked also with domestic issues as well, as Dr. King was pointing out in the 60s. So it's all linked together, peace, and we've added the name and justice to our centers. So those issues are important to me, and the other issue, of course, is having the space for people to meet and to organize, and that's what the foundation has been doing, and that's what I've been a part of for the last few years. My pronouns are he, him.
Thank you, Jeff. Louise?
Hi, Louise Auerhahn. I am on the board and serve as the secretary. Don't exactly remember how long I've been on the Collins board. I think long enough is a good way to put it. I've been involved with the peace and justice community since 2001 when I first got involved trying to prevent the war in Afghanistan, Iraq, back in the days of the South Bay Mob. In terms of issues that are important to me, and racial justice and gender justice, especially this week, a lot on my mind. Economic justice, climate change and climate justice, and community self-determination. And I'm she or they.
I'm muted. Nick, do you want to go, please?
There you go. Hi, I'm Nick Delatorre. Came back to the call. I joined the Collins board, I think back 2010, I think. I started working with the Collins and Reverend Shorty Collins when he bought the house, the Collins house. I helped rebuild and get the house going back then. But I've been, I'd say, off and on dealing with the peace center since the Vietnam War in 68 and 69. When I went to San Jose State, we were protesting. That's when I first got introduced with the Peace Center. So off and on, I've known the Peace Center since back then. Reverend Shorty Collins, I really liked him. He was a very close, dear person I liked. And most of the people I knew back then are all gone. He had a lot of stuff. One thing he really was emphasizing is spirituality. And he really wanted to have that in the Peace Center too. You can't always just go away from that. And I'm into him, she, and stuff. So that's okay.
Thank you, Nick. Sharon, I saw you just come in.
Yes.
I'm asking the board members to introduce themselves with their name, length of time with the organizations, as well as briefly what issues and causes are important to you and your pronouns.
Well, pronouns, he, him, they, them. I have been with the Collins Foundation for actually, I don't remember when it was the beginning date, but it's been probably around 10 years in one role or another. And I have so my involvement is, compared to some of the others, not as really more recent, but my interests are, I mean, I have been a social activist since my student days, when I was part of the protest and the student strikes against the Vietnam War. and have been a political economist. So, most of my emphasis has been in analyzing issues of global justice and helping to inform people about them. And also, I also do things that are related to social justice in the arts as well. So, is there anything else?
That's great. Thank you, Shara. So next slide. Most people are more aware of the Peace and Justice Center, or San Jose Peace Center, as it was founded in 1957. The Peace and Justice Center serves as a resource and action center for progressive activism, seeking to develop, nurture, and nurture the growing community of people who work to create and participate in a just, peaceful, and nonviolent society, one that ensures human rights for all people and ensures the continuation of and respect for all life on Earth. So next slide. The same thing with the coordinating council members. There's 2 coordinating council members who are here, Joan Simon and Carla Henriquez. I have an ex officio, which means basically by position on the coordinating council. Joan, do you want to start with introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Joan Simon. 9 years ago, I was voted in as part of the San Jose Peace and Justice Center Coordinating Council, representing the Santa Clara County Single Payer Healthcare Coalition, and I continue to be a member of the council. My pronoun is she, her.
Thank you, Joan. Carla, you're next.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Enriquez. I have been a coordinating council member for about a year now, but before that, I was a volunteer/intern, and my pronouns are she, her, ella.
Aya. I forget Aya all the time. So go to the next slide. So the question that went out on much of the invite was, why are we here? And the biggest question that we've been one of many questions we're kind of dealing with internally recently is, how can we ensure that this property in the location that it is in downtown San Jose serves the needs of our community? And so that's the thematic question of what we're kind of trying to process. And this is more a Collins Foundation issue because of the house itself. It'll go into some of the Peace and Justice Center stuff, but everything's kind of a mishmash of stuff. So next slide. This conversation, like I said, we're not necessarily going to have solutions. This is an early conversation to solicit feedback and input. The pandemic has been difficult on everybody, and I think nonprofits are feeling it more in 2021 than they felt it in 2020 to some extent. I know that's true for us. The house itself, which Charlotte's going to go into an overview, is aging. It was built in the 1910s, or I think right before the 1910s. I can't remember the exact date. Other issues that we have is current leadership does not adequately represent the diverse community, and that was put in that letter. We're slowly and surely kind of working towards becoming a more diverse group and representational group, and that's a goal that the board and the coordinating council have both set forth as something to strive for. But overall, we're nothing if we don't have the community. So we need the input and the engagement of the community members here, as well as those in the larger community, to help us shape and develop what we all envision for here, for a movement space in San Jose. Next slide. Charlotte, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Good to have everybody here. My job here is to give a little background on the Collins Foundation and the Collins House. As many people are aware, the Peace Center itself was founded in 1957. And at that time, probably it was around Barbie Ulmer's kitchen table, founded by 3 different individuals. And George Shorty Collins was one of them. And over the years, they grew, they moved around to different locations in downtown San Jose. And in 1985, a group of supporters and donors put together money. They took out loans so they could purchase the house, a former fraternity house at 48 South 7th. The goal was to be a permanent home for the Peace Center. The Collins Foundation at that time established itself as a 501c3. They had to apply to the IRS, and that was granted. So they are able to have the project of the Peace Center, Peace and Justice Center now, can collect donations, tax-deductible donations. The 501c3 status allows us to do that. Now, in 1990, they paid off all the loans, and the house became very busy, a lot of stuff going on. Offices were rented out to business, to individuals who had businesses. There was an accountant, there was driving school, and there was Ricardo, the immigration attorney. And then we found out that we could get a reduction in property taxes, or actually sort of an exemption from property taxes if we only rented to nonprofits. So we made that shift to renting to nonprofits. Early in the 2000s, Silicon Valley Debug had an office in the Peace Center in the Collins House. The back office, I don't think we charged them rent, but they were back there for a while. The three main things I think to know about the Collins Foundation is that we own the house. We are a 501c3 and can fiscally sponsor other groups, as we have done for the Downtown Hospital Coalition, the May 1st Coalition, the Wage Theft Coalition, and other groups. And the third thing, you may have noticed that everybody on the board of the Collins Foundation can't even remember when we first started. So that shows that there has been very little turnover. It's been a long time that the same people have been on the board of the foundation, and we're aging. A lot of us we're not exactly a diverse board. And so it's very important for us to bring forward new leadership. That's all I have to say.
And just for a little bit of background regarding this slide, it's from the program that was used for the one of the early benefit concerts done by Pete Seeger for the Peace Center. At that point, it was to create the building fund and to have some funds to purchase this building. Okay, I should have content warninged all of this, because now we're getting into the numbers kind of stuff. The cost of the house, so I broke the cost down in a couple of ways, and really this is just to give a snapshot of the realities of the year 2021, as well as what basic cost expenses are to have this house and to have it as a meeting space or whatever we actually decide to do with it. The annual spending for both sides of the organization, so this is both Peace and Justice Center as well as Collins Foundation, but it does not include the groups that we fiscally sponsor. So this is the spending, the budget the spending in 2019 was roughly $5,600 a month, which is $67,500-ish a year. In 2020, which I think was, at that point we had 2 paid staff. Surprisingly, that was also the pandemic year. But I think because we had the 2 paid staff and we were as active as we were, with the summer rallies and other things, we ended up spending, a little bit more, $6,100 each month for $73,000. So now this figure does include salaries and everything else in it. It includes our basic expenses as well as the house expenses that I'll be going into next. This year, we've had a lighter year. Tara resigned, I don't know what month she found another job, so she moved on. So we're down to 4,400-ish per month for this year, for 2021. Go ahead and go to the next slide's all numbers. So I'm just gonna briefly go over, I'm gonna use the last column, which you may or may not be able to see because I forgot to remove some of the columns when I was preparing this. It's basically the bottom, very bottom of this. It shows the amount in rent that we receive each year. 2019, I think we were mostly occupied upstairs, and we collected just over $16,000 for that year in rents. Then the pandemic, we exempted a lot of the groups of the rents that were up there. A lot of them left because they couldn't necessarily be here. DSA still is in the top floor. And I think the other 3 offices are currently empty or, pending being able to do something with. So then in addition to that, if you just look at the 3-year average, the house expenses alone are around $26,000, $26,372. So that averages out for like almost $2,200 per month for just the house expenses. So these house expenses include the utilities, the internet, which Collins Foundation a couple years ago opted to start covering Wi-Fi internet throughout the whole house instead of putting that burden on the tenants the tenant groups that might be occupying the upstairs. The hardest hit, I think, for us in general is the insurances that we have to carry. And that annual average is $7,700, so $7,700. So all of this is just to give you a snapshot of the picture. And I'm sure many people will go, okay, this is dry, and my eyes are going to glaze over. But I do want to say that if anybody wants to talk about these things, to let me know, and we can schedule a time more one-on-one to have a conversation, or a smaller group to have that conversation. Now, the center does have some, or the Collins Foundation does have some reserve funds. And thanks to a lot of them are donations that were given as an estate-like thing. So it was a bequeathment, or, upon their death, we received certain donation amounts. For some people, we also received a donation in advance of, somebody who's getting older. So they did a payout, they did a large donation at that point in time. So we do have money in savings that can be applied in certain ways. And then we have some money in our accounts that we can't do anything with. Those amounts primarily are the project reserves. So we've got different groups that we fiscally sponsor, and some of these funds, those groups have the 47,000 in our accounts that we cannot touch because that's allocated to those projects and to their missions and visions. Additionally, we have roughly a $35,000 reserve that is semi-liquid, but not 100% liquid at this point in time. And then we get into, the rest of it, which is what the top 3 lines are. If we continued the spending at this rate of spending for 2021, we would have enough to survive for 24 months-ish, Anytime the amount of what we spend out, or any major renovation or major repair that's going to be done, will alter those numbers. But even at the 2020 level of spending, we probably still were not adequately staffed, adequately resourced, so the spending was lower than what we actually put out, but we still would have over a year. Now, as a nonprofit, that is like an unheard of reality, that many nonprofits never have that cushion. It gives us, it's part of why we're opting to have the discussions now versus later, also to figure out how best to utilize the resources that we do have available to us. Charlotte said to me earlier today, and I think Joan said it too, you know, what about the limitations and barriers here of the space? I think everybody here has been active here to where you kind of know what the inside of the space looks like. Of course, upstairs, the accessibility is limited for anybody like myself who uses a wheelchair. The few times I've had to climb the stairs, it's not been necessarily pleasant. The size of the rooms are not appropriate for like meeting spaces. We do have small parking lot, but it's a limited parking lot. There are age-related odors and issues that impact people with asthma or those that react to the chemical or environmental and pollutants. And then we have ventilation issues, which this is probably even more important now that, with the pandemic and the need to maintain a ventilated space. And then we're to Liz's section. So it'll get more interesting now. Liz Gonzalez and Sandy Perry, and who else was in that group, Liz, that started the Community Land Trust, I think, in our front room?
A lot of folks. I have the picture, Jocelyn Hernandez, I think Ryan, who's also in the meeting right now, was there, Donna.
Yeah. So Liz is gonna take it and give a presentation, including exciting news from their fundraiser successes recently, and go over all of that. Carla, we have to shift to that presentation so we can take it off share screen and then go back to that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Liz Gonzalez. I'm with DBUG and with the South Bay Community Land Trust. And just like Charlotte mentioned and Michelle has mentioned, it is really special to be able to be part of this conversation, given that DBUG started in a little corner at the Peace Center, and then we sort of just grew too big and needed to find our own spot. And, the organizing space that would become the Land Trust also met at the center there. So thank you to everyone because you've helped us on our way and really are doing, what you set out to do. So the South Bay Community Land Trust, we just started in 2019 and really out of a campaign against the Google development proposed in downtown San Jose. We still oppose that development because of the effects that it's going to have in our community, how it's going to change everything. And we propose a vision of resident-led development without displacement that can happen if we have, the policies in place that support that. And our mission is to acquire and manage land and housing for the benefit of the community, mainly to keep housing permanently affordable, but to benefit the community in any way that we see fit, and to benefit the lowest income residents of the county. Next slide, please. What is a land trust? Again, a CLT is a nonprofit that takes land and housing out of the speculative market to keep it permanently affordable for generations to come, meaning that it can no longer be sold for profit. And folks who live there don't have to fear eviction, displacement. It can stabilize entire communities. The history of community land trusts comes in the United States, comes out of the South. The first land trust was New Communities, Inc., started by Black sharecroppers in the South as part of the civil rights struggle. And that's really a legacy that we resonated with, that we want to continue as part of our own path to liberation here in San Jose. Community land trusts are community-led and governed. So we're organized in a way that folks who are most affected, who benefit the most, lead it and direct it. The board should be a third of the residents from the CLT, a third of residents from the area, and a third experts. And this model is super flexible. It could apply to single family homes, to condos, cooperatives. It can be for rental, for home ownership, and for community serving spaces. Next slide, please. This is sort of a visual to demonstrate how the land underneath the properties are separated under a land trust. So the land trust holds the land underneath a home, by the whole community. And then above, you can have rental, you can have your community serving institution, community space, apartment complex, whatever it is, depending on what the residents there, the community there want to do. We sort of facilitate that. And we know that in San Jose, we're, we have a lot of older buildings. So our main focus right now is to acquire the buildings and rehabilitate them, make them dignified, make them beautiful, because we all deserve that. And this is a super Cliff Notes version, but later we can have a longer version of this. Right now, as we're getting established, we're sort of finding ourselves in a moment where more people are starting community land trusts, where the state is talking about social housing. So there are some opportunities that even 2 years ago, we could never dream of. And it feels like resources are starting to make their way towards us. But it still requires a fight and a big push before they actually reach us. So some of the things that we think about to really help us scale up are that we need to, like we started in a campaign, Public Land for Public Good, that governments, institutions that hold land, and we'll start with public land later to all land, should use that land for public good to transfer it over to residents directly, to community land trusts, to other organizations, because, we're in a space now where we can clearly say that all this land is stolen land. So what does it even mean to have private property right now? But that's a conversation for another time. We need investment from the government, right? The city of San Jose needs to establish a permanent fund for housing preservation. And we're working with partners, mainly Somos Mayfair and other organizations who are leading a community opportunity to purchase act that is going to have a big funding ask. Please look out for ways that you can support that so that we have not only in word, but like a resource commitment that local residents are prioritized by the city. And we want to have the CLT recognized as not just something small, but something that covers so many things and should be centered in the conversations that we're having around homelessness. It is a strategy that can end homelessness, that prevents homelessness, evictions, displacement, and provides opportunities for folks who have been most denied housing opportunities. And like Michelle said, we are in the process of acquiring our first property just a few blocks from the Peace and Justice Center. It's surrounded by high rises and more coming up. And so this is why it's so important for us to have community controlled housing, because if these properties get sold, it means these folks don't have anywhere else to go in the city. So luckily, this property owner believes in our mission, but we still have to raise that money because the rules don't change until the property changes. And we have raised the first 10% towards the down payment, which people say is the hardest to raise. You can visit our website to get more information. The majority of the tenants in this home are veterans, and we want to keep them housed without having to lose their home. So that's a super Cliff Note version of the CLT, how they operate, and what we're doing here in San Jose.
Thank you, Liz. Part of, and Carla, I think we can just shut off the screen share temporarily. Grace, are you still here? No. Okay. Oh, you are? I was going to ask you, Grace, if you could copy and paste the questions for the breakout session into the into the chat. Yeah. So we're going to break out. Each room has ideally a facilitator and a note taker in it. Room 1, I have Abdallah, who is a volunteer. Tara and I met Abdallah briefly before the pandemic started, and then he's been active off and on since then because our lives are always busy. I don't know that I yet have a note taker for that room, but I'll get that fixed at some point here shortly. In the second room, Charlotte Casey will be the facilitator, and Joan Simon will be the note taker. In room 3, excuse me, I'm in need of a facilitator in room 3. I have to fix that. Room 4, I have Anisha as the facilitator. Room 2 will be Jeff as the facilitator. Or be a note taker. Yeah, I'll let you guys battle that out. And then, where was I? I don't know. Here. So Grace and Carla will be in room 3. Dan Mayfield and Louise will be in room 5. Where's room 4? I have no clue. It skipped over 4. Anyway, I think that works. It'll be about 8 people. Are there any, so Joan. Yeah. So are there any questions before we kind of head to the breakout rooms? The questions were put into chat, and the facilitators all should have access to the document that those questions are on. But I can also make sure if you guys don't have them, you can chime back into this room, or you can direct message me to find out where they are. So we want you to go through, whoops, that's the wrong one, Grace. The questions, no, you did. You did the right one. Introductions, and then what are your thoughts on the issue? What are your thoughts and feelings about the pandemic? And then a vision for your perfect movement home, and then the final thoughts. Then what we'll do is a report back following these sessions that includes just highlights of the discussions. And then we'll wrap up with any last minute questions in the process. Any questions before I bounce people to their rooms? We're a silent group. Jenna, you're also a facilitator, aren't you?
Yeah, I was just about to let you know, and a note taker too.
Okay. I did this.
Did we pick what room, which room are we going to be in, or are we already assigned?
No, you don't pick it. I did an auto population of the rooms, and then I reassigned the note takers and the facilitators. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be best of whatever. So I think, Jenna, whatever room you end up in, I think we can collaboratively figure out the best process. I think you're with Anisha, actually. You're with Anisha, and yeah, Rowan, sorry.
So is one of these rooms the main room? That's the only one that has closed captioning?
That is me. That was my next question. Thank you very much. For those that still need closed captioning, I can keep you in this main room so that you still have access to that. Rowan, you're one. Anybody else, just feel free if you get bounced out to come back into this main room. Abdallah, what's your question?
So hi everyone. Just wanted to know how long the session or breakout room sessions are.
I'm thinking 35 minutes.
And do we break up into different screens into the 5 in the room, or?
Yeah, so it'll be a few more than 5 per room because I didn't have enough overall facilitators, but I'm going to open the rooms now. You'll have a box that pops up on your screen that says join this room. You'll click to join that room, and then when I'm ready, I will be bringing people back into this room. I'd say at about 6:35-ish. I'll reach out to the hosts of those rooms. Are we ready?
7:35 is your second.
Yeah, 7:35. Thank you. Donna, I love your screen there.
I left my room. I got ejected from my room.
Yeah, I closed the rooms.
We're all coming back to the main room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my last statement was supposed to be, which is the best option. I don't know which the best option is.
Well, that's okay. We don't have to resolve it right now.
Yeah.
I I mean, to me, it's like, you know, unless until you want to actually open up the facility, you're not going to get people in. You're not going to get people
is still an open
interested.
question.
You're not going to, you're not going to bring people in. So if you want to make people interested in the Peace Center, you can't do it while the place is closed. That's it.
Agreed.
Now we could sit there and be like, oh, COVID. But it's like, I mean, haven't we been doing that for like 2 years? Aren't we like bored with that already? I mean, come on.
Nah, people are still interested.
Oh yeah. How could this be so interesting? This is so lame. I mean, it's. I mean, if you like watching theater or going to concerts or like doing anything that's outside or in public or with people, I mean, this has been the lamest, most post-apocalyptic thing in the world. And like, do we have to like choose to feed into it just because like we need to be cool on that level? Like, yeah, down with the COVID. We gotta be 6 feet apart. Stay away from me. I don't want to see. You know, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, my sister called me today to say she has COVID. It's really close to me and she could die. So it matters. It's not some performative thing.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, I know. But
Looks like we're getting off the topic.
the diversity issue. Right?
Okay, time out, Keith, please. So COVID is real. I'm the first one to say COVID is real. And it scares the crap out of me because if I get it, I will likely be hospitalized if I'm not dead from it. So there are people, even vaccinated, who will still get COVID and who will still die. So we have to still be mindful of those realities. Younger people, different people feel differently depending on where they fall on the issues. And I do think it's important to be mindful of those things. So basically, is the whole room back now? Yeah, I think everybody's back. So to wrap up, I don't really want to go back into sharing screen, even though I may have to. I want to have the conversation, the discussion question conversation, the report back session, where we share a surprising or notable discussion item, somebody from the room, or we also what the themes were or important themes that came up in the discussion. And then any other closing thoughts? Donna, I think you had some thoughts too to add to that. So anybody want to go?
I think someone has their hand raised.
I raised my hand first.
Abdallah, yeah. I'm not looking at that.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Surprising, not really surprising, but a very cool fact. I loved my breakout room. I loved my group. Paula, Walter, William, Yusuf, Stan. It was lovely speaking to all of you. And honestly, it reinvigorated a lot of, not lost hope, but more so I was exhausted from this last year. As William, as you mentioned, there has been a lot of energy that has died down just because people are tired. A lot of people are tired. But to see so many folks joining us here today and to hear from a lot of the older generation, I don't like to use the word older just because, I believe we're all still young. We all have a lot to learn, and we all, Walter, I see you waving there. We all have a lot to learn from each other, but I do respect my elders a lot, and I do believe in all of you so much. And you have seen so much of the world. You have seen so much of the fight. You fought for a lot, So it is our duty to learn from each and every one of you. So I just wanted to say, I'm very excited. I do have plans to reach out to my group specifically again, because I believe there's a lot of things we can discuss. Michelle, I took notes while I was in my room, and it looks like the two biggest themes, I wouldn't call them concerns, although they were very very valid as concerns as well. The two biggest notes were the question of the center being used as a physical space and our need as activists, organizers, community members for a physical space. COVID has been such a huge and painful thing in all of our lives. I had COVID before anybody even knew,
I had it back in
before they even
2019.
started. Yeah, before they even started reporting about COVID, I had COVID and I knew it was COVID because once the symptoms came out, it's been very hard to recover from it. So I understand the fear, especially with a lot of vulnerable groups, a lot of immunocompromised groups, folks, a lot of folks who, I have asthma, so I get very worried when I'm in physical spaces, because I do not want to get COVID again. But it is very important for us to have a community space where we can share each other's presence, speak to each other face to face, smile at each other, share a hug here and there when it's safe. So that was the that was the first one, first note that was brought up, especially by Walter, by Stan, by William. Paula had great questions about how a community land trust, the concept of it, could be applied to the house. And Michelle, you and I have discussed this. So there's a lot more discussion left. And I hope, seeing this great turnout today, I hope we can have this turnout again and we can discuss a lot more about where the center can go. Second note was outreach for the center. And Michelle, when Tara was here, I had this huge ambition about reaching out to all the groups that have come through the center and everything. Of course, we get busy. I'm a full-time student. I also go to work full-time, take care of my family full-time. I was unhoused until about middle of, actually this year. So it's been a lot, but it's something I look forward to. So coordination between the groups, we have a great number of representatives here. And to hold myself accountable, I don't make promises until I'm sure I'm going to keep them. So to make a vow of sorts, I'm going to work with the center as much as possible to coordinate, communicate, and build a sort of outreach Rolodex with the community at the center. So Walter, Paula, Stan, William, Yusuf, all of you have been great in bringing up that topic. So I think, Michelle, the two biggest themes were using or having a physical organizing space, and also essentially just building an outreach network. Again, I know there's a lot that needs to be redone at the center. So I think the main thing is we're all willing to come back. We're all looking to come back and have a community again, because community is the most important function of human society. So we're doing a great job here. We're doing good work.
I do this. I say thank you, and then I realize I'm muted, so I have to unmute myself. So thank you, Abdullah, for that, and thank you to the room as well. So somebody from room 2, do you want to?
Sure, I'll take it. We had a very lively discussion, not all in agreement, but that's good because we have a place to start from. So in our group, we had Keith, Donna, Charlotte, and Kiana. Unfortunately, Kiana had to leave early. And so Keith wants to open up and, have the Peace and Justice Center just because it's important to have community right now, okay? Donna had some great suggestions as far as reaching out to the community, asking them what to do with the Peace and Justice Center. So there's more to the community than the people that exist here, such as Cham, Robert Aguirre, Sandy Perry. There are a lot of teenage groups who can use the Peace and Justice Center. After all, we do need a lot of young people to come and help out and volunteer and be part of the center. However, it's, let's see what else. Get MACLA involved. Also, let's see, we need to, Create TV. Create TV, apparently it's interesting. We found out that it's moving to Zanatos, and to have the Peace and Justice Center hook up with Create TV so that when we have events, if and when we do have events at the Peace and Justice Center, they can come and help film events. Let's see. But there's money involved here, right? Okay, if we keep the Peace and Justice Center, what is the cost of renovation? Can we afford it? You know, so we need to find out a lot of information in terms of how much things cost. We need also to find out more about the land trust. You know, is that doable? Is that feasible? We need to, maybe connect with Somos Mayfair, okay, to get that information. Not a good idea. Okay, then there was a statement that it's not a good idea to sell, maybe tear it down and rebuild. But again, where do we get the money? So to me, it all involves money. And that to me, so everything involves, it's all an economic issue. That's what it boils down to right now.
All about money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Joan, and thank you to your room. Room 3 or one of the other facilitators?
I can share for room 3. Sorry,
Awesome.
I had to go off camera. But
It's okay.
I'll briefly summarize what we covered. Like Abdallah and Joan mentioned, the two priority points that we covered in general was the reopening of the space, whether it is in the back or community groups meeting in person once more inside of the center, but only doing so if it can truly be done safely. With the center itself, I think that we all truly valued how lucky we were with the location, in particular being right next to San Jose State, as well as next to City Hall. There's always the added sentimental value of the space since it has been there for so long, the ties it has to all of the community members there and those that have used it in the past. But like Joan mentioned, it's back to the question of where would we receive the funding if we choose to demolish the house, which was essentially what we all agreed was the one option moving forward. One of the members, and please excuse me if I'm wrong, mentioned the idea of a community house. So a little background: in South Africa during apartheid, there were several buildings that were named the community house so all community members could join. And so that would essentially be what the center would be moving forward. Again, the location was a big factor for us, as well as then moving forward with where do we receive this funding.
Muted again. Thank you. Room 4.
Hey everyone. My group we discussed mostly 3 big things. One being, the location of the center is very integral of San Jose's Peace and Justice Center's identity, and how there's a lot of history in the house and those who have contributed and been a part of that location, and we want to stay in that location basically. So that's one thing. We also talked about what our society looks like right now with the pandemic, and how can we make the center accessible for those who want to go to the center for the events, as well as those who are not comfortable going to the center for their own reasons, and their reasons are completely valid. So one of the members mentioned a hybrid system where we have an event, we host it the day of, and, you know, possibly getting a Zoom of the event as well. And, you know, having that option for those who want to stay home and still contribute and still participate through via Zoom, via anything virtual, as well as, you know, having that space to meet one-on-one, really get that social interaction, you know, learn what this event is about. And so having that hybrid system is really important. And that was important in the discussion. And then third thing was another person talked about guidelines, you know, going from now and in the future, guidelines that can sort of, you know, close the communication gap between event hosts as well as the center individuals, and, you know, what are the expectations of what we should have, what we could use from the center. Can we have like a step process of, this is, you know, this is the day of the event, this is what I'm going to need, this is sort of the outcome of what I want to, what we visualize our event to be, as well as our, you know, the seminar, or whatever the event is, basically is, we have a goal, what will the outcome be, what are the expectations that we must meet, as well as, you know, communication gap being closed. And I think that was the third one. You know, I had a few people who expressed their interests as well as, you know, ideas on the center, if they would love to, you know, share what they have to say, instead of, you know, listening to me. I think only 2 of them left. So if anybody else is still here, please feel free to jump in.
Thank you. The other thing, anybody who wants to help out with the center, you can always reach out via email or phone call, and somebody will get back with you to help you tap into here. We're constantly busy, I think. So who was in, what am I up to, room 5? I think I had 6 rooms, right? 5 rooms, and then the main room, yeah. So were you in 5, Dan? You're muted.
Hi, this is Dan, and I'm going to report back. We mostly discussed the need for diversity and the hope that working with the Land Trust would put us in a position to be a much more diverse group. So it was our belief, and speak up if you don't hold to this, because we didn't come to summing up until the little picture came up on the screen and said we had 45 seconds. So I summed it up this way. Working with the Land Trust can put us in touch with a more diverse population, and at the same time, keep the house and make sure the house stays as an asset to the community. So we did not discuss some of the other things that people have talked about tearing the house down and building on that same spot, but we sort of assumed the house would stay there and that it was an important part of the community, but it was not reaching all of the people that it needed to reach. And we felt that working with the Land Trust would definitely help that possibility of doing that kind of outreach.
Thank you. Jenna, I thought I put you in one of the rooms, but now I'm not sure if I did.
It was with me.
Did you? Oh, she was with you. Okay. Thank you, Anisha.
You're welcome.
I was thinking I misstepped there. So in the room that I was in, we were small, but we had a lot of really good conversation. It follows the themes of what everybody else has said also, which is the house is a real asset. And then as an aside, but it's an old house. And with old house comes greater expense. We talked about the need for, you know, in dreaming of what a movement home might be, the diverse representation where we're led by those most impacted on the issues that we're dealing with, I think is also hugely important for us going forward. And then there was some discussion about in that dreaming, you know, whether we do a capital campaign or not, whether we didn't make any final decisions, except some of the things that came up are we need a commercial kitchen. You know, we need to be able to have a facility that allows, or a way, you know, to do so. And then, you know, struggles with the existing building include, you know, the lack of a sufficient meeting space and the need to focus on organizing and not just always educating. So actually creating change and teaching, or, you know, with other people, organizing and activating around different issues. Parking lot repairs are a huge issue that was brought up, in that the parking lot is uneven for people that may have less than sure footing, and the need to renovate that part of the space as well. And we touched briefly on reopening, well, no, that was my note from Carla to myself about reopening being safety, and that's hugely important. The diversification is also important. So I'm not going to start the slide stuff again because we're almost done. I received an email today that was like appropriate because it had a quote in it of a Black disabled activist. And their words were, "I want to believe in peace. I want to believe we can unlearn violence and affirm our interdependency. I dream of a community of lovers who navigate pain, joy, laughter, and grief together, collectively and with care, experiencing endless beauties. I think I am dreaming of a modern day heaven, or perhaps I'm dreaming of the good we are meant to be." And that was by Kate Davidson, on why I quit philanthropy. And I think that that's, you know, it resonated a lot with me. Going forward, we need to collect community input and community feedback. Of course, we also have a holiday in between that's going to kind of hiccup things, but hopefully what we're going to take the notes from the meetings, the breakouts today, and the recording that we'll have the recording to share. Those notes we'll look at and look for themes and other things within the notes that were taken. There's also something the Peace and Justice Center has voted to implement, which is an advisory council, an advisory committee. That advisory committee would be like going back to the days when it was a group of the groups, the representatives from different groups meeting around the board table at that point. But this advisory committee would be to help us inform the practices of the Peace and Justice Center, led by those community groups, as well as giving those community groups a place to come to say, hey, we're doing this or we're doing that event. So emails will be sent out to different community groups to, you know, and it's something ideally that not only one person has to attend, but it can be a member of the group who has the time and the capacity to do so. Also look out for Collins Foundation board recruitment, as well as Peace and Justice Center has ongoing coordinating council and recruitment. There's going to be other meetings that are going to be scheduled. There's also one-on-ones or smaller group meetings that we can make arrangements to hold. This is all going to be hopefully a well-planned process, but then we'll still have hiccups in the way, and we don't know where we're going yet. However, none of it is going to be done without your input and your support, whether that's financial or through service or through a commitment to assist and help and build. And, you know, that's the Collins board has, I believe, I know at least one more member who may be retiring, you know, moving on to something else, and then an aging leadership that some are burnout and ready to kind of take an emeritus status. So we definitely need to recruit for the Collins board as we get the onboarding materials finalized so that we can onboard people without recreating the hiccups in the history that we've done before. But all of this is about the community, you know, and it's about building together. And I thank you all for taking the time today to be here. And I hope everybody has a great rest of December.
Thank you. If anybody knows that wants to join the Collins board.
Hope to meet again soon.
I got my booster today. All right.
Yeah.
Got my booster today, so I'm not. I do believe. I do believe that it's real.
Nice brainstorming with y'all.
Yes, definitely. Good to see everybody here. Thank you for coming out.
Buenas noches.
Night, everybody.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Vaya
Have a good
con
one.
Dios.
Stay safe.
Vaya con Dios todos.
Sí. Thanks, Michelle.
Adios.
Thanks, Michelle.